What's going on, YouTube? So today what I'm going to be working on, I have a pretty good sized truck with a bunch of off-roading lights on it, and I've been trying to find switches that will look almost factory or close to factory, where they're not big and bulky and I don't have to drill a bunch of holes all through my dash to put these switches in. So what we're going to be working on today is I'm going to take these Homelink buttons, I believe they're called. They're for garage doors, and they're in 2007 to 2013, I believe, Chevy Silverados, Tahoes, GMC Sierras, Yukons. They're pretty much all the same vehicle. So these buttons here originally go to a little transmitter right back here, and this is what pairs to your garage door. Me personally, I don't use it, so we're going to do away with it. I'm going to try and turn these momentary buttons into toggle buttons, so I can activate a relay on and off and turn on and off my off-roading lights, and it looks completely factory. So the first thing we're going to do is open this thing up. There's 2 Torx bit screws. This little module comes out, little clip unplugs. That's what it looks like. And there's just 4 little plastic clips. I don't know if you can see that. Take these little clips and you just pry them up with a screwdriver. And so this is the garage door opening piece itself. What we're going to do is see if we can modify these buttons. The part I ordered previously was this little 4 relay surface mount deal from I got off eBay, and it's got this little surface mount, these gel buttons that you push and it activates relays in here. These are relatively low quality, and the problem I had are these pins where it plugs into the module are not crimped correctly, so it worked a couple of times and then it stopped working. What this system does is it turns a momentary signal or short to ground and toggles a relay on and off. It forces it to latch. So you push a button, it turns a relay on, lights turn on. You push a button, the relay turns off, lights turn off. So we're going to salvage this piece, but instead of this little touchpad where you have to mount it in your dash. Okay, so here's what I got so far. I took the original garage door circuit and I desoldered the 3 surface mount switches that were up here. And I went off camera and cut me a piece of this kind of universal, I forget what this board is called, but it's a prototyping board. It comes in big sheets like this, and you can just solder what you need to on these copper pads and then cut out the size that you need. So when I desoldered the surface mount switches off of the original board, I soldered them onto here. I know it's kind of a hodgepodge wiring, and put some jumpers across here, and then put me a quick connect here with a waterproof automotive grade plug. A little heavier duty than what we need, but it'll get the job done. So once you get this all mocked up, there's a couple holes that had to be drilled to match the original card, and I had to take a Dremel and carve out this little piece in here so that the wires can feed through and out to the side. And the reason I put the plug on it is so that I can disconnect this later, because it's part of the upper console or this overhead console piece. I want to be able to remove it if I have to and not have to cut any wires. So this just gives me a quick connect to plug and unplug it. Once you get everything mocked up and soldered in, we're going to fit it inside the casing and then close it up. Make sure it snaps closed and that the seam is closed all the way around. So we're going to test all the buttons. All the buttons work, so we know the placement is in the correct place for all the surface mount switches. So now we're going to perform an idiot check, sanity check some people call it. We're going to plug in the other side of this quick connect, and then take our multimeter, set it on continuity. Now for me, I wired the red wire of this harness to common for all three of the micro switches, and then these three leads here go to my three buttons, the other side of that switch. So we're going to hold it on red and black and push our buttons. We got a tone, we have good continuity, so we know that black goes to this far button here. Then we're going to hold it to the blue. That goes to my center button. Green goes to my end button. On this little pilot relay switch, the way that this works, let me get this unplugged, it's got 5 pins in this little connector, and on the original little gel membrane switch assembly, it's just got 5 pins on it. So the center pin is your common, it sends out 12 volt positive. The other 4 pins are relays 1 through 4. I don't have 4 buttons on my little garage door switch that was factory in the vehicle, so I'm only going to be using 3 of these, but I have the available output if I wanted to wire up a different switch later on. I found this little 5-pin connector and I had to shave it down to get it to fit, but this is just laying around in my scrap pile. So I'm going to plug that in there. Then I'm going to take my yellow wire off of this harness, which is the center pin or the common for the 4 inputs. I'm going to wire it to my red, which is my common for the switches. And then I'm going to grab just any 4 of these, go blue to blue, green to green, and we'll do orange to black. And the colors on this are irrelevant. They don't make a difference as long as you know which one goes where, and a lot of the stuff, virtually all of it's going to be tucked behind the dash, so you'll never see any of it. And if you're the one that put it together, you kind of know how it works. So we got everything wired, so now we're going to turn on our 12 volt power supply and see if when we push these buttons, if we can hear the individual relays in here open and close. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Now, one of the things that were not documented very well on this little pilot relay box is that each set of relays or each output can handle up to 10 amps. Now that's probably maximum rating. I couldn't find very much in the way of technical documentation on it, but I probably wouldn't exceed 4 or 5 amps. But what you could do is get a standard automotive relay, wire the relays up to these outputs to give you up to about 40 amp switching capability if you needed it, depending on what application you're running. So just for test purposes, I have a little Cree pod here. These are surface mount pods I got off eBay, and I'm just going to wire it up to one of the outputs. Use my little alligator clips. They're real handy. And we still have our 12 volt power source turned on. It's feeding power into here. One unique thing about this little pilot relay box is that it puts out the negative and positive to all 4 channels, not just the positive side. So it does have a common negative throughout the entire assembly, and it just has these 2 power wires that come in that would come from your battery or an ignition source. And there we go. So now that we know everything works, we'll disconnect everything and we'll go ahead and mount this back in the overhead console and then do one more sanity check before we go install this in the truck. Seem to have misplaced the mounting screw. There they are. We want to make sure it's mounted all the way flush and that we have these two screws here screwed all the way down. Flip it over, make sure everything looks good here. Push our buttons, make sure our buttons work. That button right there is not pushing very well. So I'm going to loosen this up and readjust it. There we go. All three buttons work nice and smooth, no binding, no catching. So now we're going to put our harness back on. Make sure none of our wires are touching. Take our test light, hook up negative to negative and positive to positive. And then turn on our power supply. And there we go. And now we have a completely factory looking set of switches. Now I'm going to get me my label maker with some clear labels. And I'm going to put me some labels on here so that I know which one goes to which. One of them will obviously be my light bar that's on my windshield. I have a 30-inch light bar in my grill. And then I also have 6 of these little pods into my front road armor bumper. But these will make it nice and concealed, and pretty much only I know what they go to. So let me get everything tightened up and I will show you the installation in the truck here shortly. Be right back. Okay guys, so here is up under my dash, and I ended up having to wire that pilot relay into another relay and then out from the amp output for my radio so that everything turns off by itself. So up here, we'll go around to the front of the truck. I got the pod lights in my bumper, got a 30-inch bar in the grill, and then a 50-inch bar up on top of the windshield. So now we come in here, we push the first button, my pod lights turn on. We'll push the second button. And my 30-inch light bar turns on. We turn off that one and we turn on the third one. And the 50-inch turns on.